Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Everybody, so we were thinking about, and we said, do we want to, like, we wanted a cocktail here, but we didn't have enough time to go get one. It would have been much nicer with a cocktail and just, answer any questions that you guys might have. But water will do for now. And we'll do a cocktail right after?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Santa.
So this is Ask Me Anything. So it's an AMA with a product team. And these sessions have been very popular in the past for us. Obviously, we've tried to answer a lot of questions during a lot of the presentations that we've set up during the last 2 days on the product vision, where we're going, how we think about different problems that we're trying to solve. Anything that you've seen over the last 2 days, this is kind of the time you can ask us any of those questions. And then if you want to ask any personal questions for Petar, Eric, and Ty, feel free to do that as well. But yeah, this is an Ask Me Anything. That's kind of how they usually work. I'm going to take a look at the app, see if there's any questions already in there. But I'll let, we need a couple of runners to kind of, with microphones.
Gerald back
Perfect,
here.
Perfect. We got Gerald and we got Trey on this side, so they don't have to cross. There we go.
We
Greg
do
as
have
well,
three.
man.
Look at this.
Okay, so questions. We have one question over there already. Okay, so you guys are going to manage the queue. Is that okay? All right.
We have a couple of questions, if that's okay.
All right.
Fire away.
So my first one is going to be, is there a way to block students or somebody who's responding to a message from sending an image? So we've had problems with inappropriate images.
So
Go ahead, Eric. Go ahead, Petar.
So the moderation that we have, it actually understands images as well. So it reads the image content. So it should flag those conversations and actually block them.
It flagged it, but it did not block it. So we saw everything.
So add. Okay, I see. Okay, makes sense. We can add that. We can add it.
We should blur it. And basically
blur.
when...
Sensitive content, if you want.
Sensitive content, yeah.
Okay, we can add that. That shouldn't be a problem.
And then I'm going to give it to my colleague because she has some questions.
Well, I don't know. Are you guys planning to implement like a scholarship software at any point?
Can you repeat the question?
A scholarship software?
Eric, that's probably a question for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that we have considered at the moment, but certainly if there's a need out there, as you guys see, we move very, very quickly. But scholarship management from application to awarding, there's beyond that. Are you looking for aid awarding as well, or just scholarship management?
Just scholarship.
Yeah, that's something we could probably tackle at some point in the future. Aid awarding and the regulatory pieces around the FAFSA and all like that is waters we probably won't dive into anytime soon, but certainly scholarship management is something we could consider, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. Gerald.
Are there any plans to add like immigration, the ISS team type software in there to monitor CVIS information for international students?
So the question is around, are any of our agents, it really depends on the workflow that you're trying to do around CVIS. So it sounds like with CVIS, you're connecting some other system to monitor what the status is or visa status is and so on and so forth and kind of bring that into the system. Is that correct, Eric?
So there's softwares that we use in higher ed for that. So like Teradata or
Right.
we're using, and they're not, we'd rather be in one system, and
Yeah.
so we're looking at full-time enrollment, currency, things that we do to register them. So I didn't know if that was something that's been talked about in the future.
We don't have it right now in our, because we usually work in like 6 months. That's the longest time that we kind of put in our roadmap, 6 months. We don't have it in the next 6 month cycle, but as you can see with some of these agents, we can put together things very, very quickly and we can connect to different systems quickly. So depending on, like if we have to do things that require us to put infrastructure around some kind of process or regulatory process, those things take a little bit longer. But if we have to connect to different systems and pull that data in and reason about it, that stuff can be done a little bit faster. So it's not in the next 6 months, but ideally, we do want to manage all the populations in one place, and that's a workflow that you want to bring in. I think that makes a lot of sense.
And as we expand the courses data model too, where we can detect, are they full-time enrolled and that sort of thing, it really, not that it wasn't possible previously, but a lot of that data wasn't native in Element, and now certainly we're driving towards that space at this point.
That's what made me think about it today in that session. You already have a lot of the stuff in there that we need to ensure full-time enrollment. So I was thinking, oh man, this would be nice.
Absolutely.
Good to know.
So PeopleSoft, can you connect to PeopleSoft?
PeopleSoft doesn't get a lot of love. It's a tough one. It's a love-hate relationship. No, there's no love, just a hate relationship. Yeah. They don't have a lot of really good kind of interfaces or APIs, so it's really difficult. And we've tried to do PeopleSoft work in the past, and the answer is at some point, but it's mostly custom work that you have to do to connect with PeopleSoft.
Okay,
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna democratize kind of the question. So we're gonna go on that side, and then we'll kind of come back. We'll come back here. Yep.
Hi there. I have a question more, well, maybe it's a wish list more, but as far as our recruiters go, when we've transitioned from our CRM to Element, we sort of lost the ability to really track their travel. And I know that we can use events. We've also lost the ability to track our relationships with community-based organizations in high schools. It's more, the person who works at the community-based organization. So we're having a little bit of a hard time with that, because if you think about a recruiter leaves, they've built up this relationship, these are the activities they do with this particular organization or high school. We've lost that information, or maybe we're just not using things right. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I can take that. So you should be able to track some of that within the organizations feature to look at institutions like that. If you have use cases that come up where you're trying to store a certain piece of data or activity or information, it's not possible, please let us know. We'd love to look into that for you. I forgot the first part of the question, sorry.
Travel management.
Travel, yes, that's right. So that's something we don't support natively in Element, but it's something we've looked into, so.
It's come up a couple of times.
Yeah. So
and we pivot to something else, but yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's on our radar. So like with that and some of the other requests, please feel free. We're always, there's always an open line to us. So the more of you express interest in a certain feature and explain the requirements and how you think about it and what your workflow is, the easier it is for us to kind of assess those things as well.
So the one thing I want to say about travel management is, you think about travel management, and there's a lot of different components to it that you might come back and say, well, I want to expense reporting, and that's one of the features that 3-4 years ago, as I talked to different folks around, like, what do you need? It's like, well, our folks are submitting their receipts through there, depending on where they're going, or they're looking at different paths to where how they're driving and what their stops are along the way, and kind of doing calculations on Google Maps. And it's like, well, yeah, but we're not going to be an expense report system. So we put in some hard kind of things that we're going to do and we're not going to do based on the problems that we're trying to solve. And yes, we can add that, but it's just, we feel that our time is much better solved spending this student-focused problems than the administrative work that's happening behind the scenes. And that's kind of the trade-off that we've made along the way. So we're not going to become a expense report. There's systems that manage that a lot better. And things like, Google Maps, amazing work. You can kind of tag things. You can share it with different people. You can share all that stuff. We now you can see, you saw probably today where we introduced this idea of our agents reaching out and doing work in other systems. So you can do now travel planning in your Copilot, and then you can incorporate different tools to go ahead and send that planning to Google so you can kind of map that path together. So we're going to rely on best of breed, general platforms that do that really, really well in those categories, rather than bringing it into Element if we don't feel like we're experts at that particular part of it. But still, Element is the central place where you can orchestrate all of those different things, and you're seeing it with agents, how that's working. All right, we're going to go back here.
Hello, I'm from Pima Community College in Tucson, Arizona, and we have been seeing fraud in applications for roughly 7 years. When Tom Brady applied.
I mean, how many degrees does he want?
I know, but he wanted financial aid, so.
Yeah. Hard pass.
No, I really don't think it was him. Anyway, so I was at the presentation yesterday about the fraud bolt for admissions, whatever.
Yeah.
And my question is, with the prevalence of identity theft currently, I've seen all the trends coming up from 2018 to now, and identity theft is the biggest one that we're dealing with currently. I would like to know if ID verification is going to be part of that bolt add-on at some point.
Yeah, that's a good question. I got asked that same question the other day, and the folks are like, well, we're looking at Plaid. There's this different platform. So there's Plaid, there's Stripe, there's a couple other ones. Essentially, the platforms that are providing verification for banks, and they're providing these APIs for banks and things like that. They're doing the identity verification as well. We do use Stripe as one of our backend for payments. They do actually have identity verification as well that you can go through, and it does that.
It's an API?
It's an API, yeah. So it's a whole process.
We could hook it up then.
Yeah, so the answer is we can connect, that's an easy one for us to connect to. We just haven't had the request from someone to come in and say, hey, we actually require a real ID, the ID verification in order to do that identity. And the other part that's important here is also in-state, out-of-state, kind of residency verification, and a lot of those different things as well, so that we can use that. But yeah, it's something that's come up very recently, and it's really, really important, and we can do it.
Thank you.
Consider it done.
It's a Petar promise. That was an official Petar promise.
Where's the bell?
Ring the bell.
Middle, yep.
Okay, I'm Angela Gillespie from California State University, San Bernardino. So I want to talk about what you guys have in mind for the future of the design aspects of campaigns and things like that. With that said, I think there's some key missing features, fundamental things like I can't create a template from an existing campaign. I can't use a template in any of the AI-generated campaigns that I've pre-designed, and I think these are some really shortfalls in the process.
Yeah, I can take that. So those are definitely two pieces of feedback we've heard a couple times, and those are things we're very interested in resolving. Over the next couple of months, you'll see us building more and more of that next level of what the agents can do. So in particular, thinking about when an agent sends an email right now, it's a plain text email. That's great, but there's other cases where you might want that email to be a little bit more richly formatted. And looking at our email builder, it's been a little while since we've refreshed that, so that's definitely something that's been on our list as well. So yeah, definitely appreciate the input there, for sure.
So we've neglected that part of it because we've been building the automation and the infrastructure to handle all of these automations now. And obviously that's a natural progression. So rather than giving you more tools to design more HTML or better HTML emails, we're actually gonna let the AI build those in real time based on your style guide or some configuration that you can provide with different elements or different types of emails and so on and so forth. So you don't have to build them yourself, and that's what we want to do. So if you're asking, can you add more features to the email builder? We can, but the better approach is for those agents to actually build that stuff and have a lot more flexibility in how it's building it and how it's writing that code in real time versus creating static stuff that's there.
Yeah, as automated as possible. Yeah. And if you've seen our campaign builder, you can imagine what it would be like if agents were able to kind of design their own emails. That would be pretty incredible. So we want to make it better and fill gaps in your workflow, but we're also trying, as Ardis said, to revolutionize that workflow as well and help alleviate some gaps directly that way as well.
That's the old way. We're going to vibe code it. Yeah.
Right now, I would say, I don't use the AI campaign builder at all because the quality of the design is not up to par for.
Yeah, we know that. That was something that we got a lot of clients there 80% of the time, right? Just to get, and it was amazing because the content, like this cold start problem, is just so difficult. The thinking through, the putting together of the content, and then it was just good enough for 85% of the emails that need to go out, the campaigns, but totally understand that, they're not the best designed emails in there. It's just all about the content.
Yeah, and we can keep making them better as well. So, yeah.
Can't wait.
Yep.
Dan Melgoza, Texas A&M San Antonio. To piggyback off of what they just said, maybe the AI isn't that great, but I love the way y'all make it easy to create beautiful designs. So we have graphic designers that make really great pages and emails.
Yeah.
Because y'all make really good tools to make those. So that's an aside from my other question. So my actual question has to do with just Element on campus. At first we did hit that where most people don't want to adopt, right? But now all these different departments want access to Element. And we'd love to empower them to give them access, but we don't want them to have access to different departments' content, right? Mm-hmm. So if on-campus events, we want them to build their own events, but we don't want them to be able to delete new student orientation or grad events. Right. So is there any kind of, and same for workflows and other tools.
Yeah.
We don't want that to happen. So is there any way that, or any plans where y'all can segment that so that we can just empower the whole university access to the awesome tools y'all got?
Yeah, we actually got that multiple times, and you maybe saw the progression.
Some of them were probably me.
Yeah,
kind of 10 times from you guys.
You can see the progression, kind of over time, more permissions popping up, more visibility controls. So we will keep on extending. So we will do probably one project. We will go all in to get to that level of full enterprise type of control and security. That's we'll go there. We'll go there.
Cool. Last year we launched a lot of permissions around the campaign builder. So you will see us extending kind of that philosophy into the other features upcoming. So we sort of have the foundational model for that now. So certainly something we can tackle for sure.
So what was it? How did we solve that? Teams?
Teams, yeah. So I can edit or delete campaigns from my team that were created from people on my team, but not another team, or I can just do my own stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I think we populated 10 new permissions just around campaigns, also tags. So if it's got a certain tag, you can edit it or you can change it, but you can't do other things. So that sort of paradigm is something that I think you'll start seeing popping up in things like events and other areas where that sort of thing is really handy.
Yeah.
And the read-only profile as well. That's been asked.
Yes,
upon
yeah.
us as well.
A read-only profile.
Yeah, so view-only permission, yeah.
Man, we want to control everything.
Control it all.
And just to give maybe a little bit of elaboration, we could have done it before, but it's always like those types of features add a lot of complexity. 90% of partners don't actually use it. And it actually, when they start to use the product, it's like, oh, damn, there's so many things to configure. The more configuration you add, the harder it is to consume. Right. So we are always kind of like, should we configure or not? If, depending on the feedback, we are listening to you always. And if we see that, hey, now is the time, we then, okay, this is the time, we will do it. But as long as we are like, okay, it's not the time yet, let's not add that complexity. Because we want to make Element easy to onboard. And, if you enter and you're like, oh, I now need to set up, 10 teams, put people in them, set the permissions and all that, just your brain, it's hard for most people. Yeah. But we do understand the need for like really, really big organizations. Like they need to, that's how you can operate the only way.
We're really hoping that over the next year or two, you move away from UI and you use more the agents to actually do work for you. And agents instinctively have those permissions in the background, so you understand that. And they're not going to tell you that I'm going to delete this other thing that you don't own or whatever. So that's kind of where we're moving toward directionally. So we understand that we have to kind of tiptoe this. How do we move things forward for the clicking UX approach? But then how do we move the new paradigm forward a lot faster, right, with agents to do that work? Because we don't want to those two things to be very far apart, right? Okay.
Okay, sorry. Trey told me to ask this because I was going to go out to ask your experts, but it's more like a brainstorming question. So we're a community college, and we're moving from a Microsoft form for our campus tour requests to Element form. The problem with that is they want to automate communication, so sending them a follow-up, hey, your tour is coming up in 24 hours, but the form is not schedule at this time. It's a, hey, are you available at these times? We reach out to ambassadors, find a time that works, and then we're able to schedule the tour. What I'm trying to figure out is how do we automate that communication if it's not an event at this time? Does that make sense?
I think you can use appointments for that, different, like a tour appointment type. So essentially, and that's a really good use case because what we just released and we announced is the actual integration, real-time integration with with the calendars. So both Google Calendar and Outlook. So the people who, you don't have to go and ask them. You can say, put times here that you're going to be available, and then those people can schedule directly on that. And they can do it, you can have different team members combine their availability, or it can be a round robin or however those. So essentially there's a lot of flexibility there if you have different people be available for different times. I think that's the best way to do that.
So we don't have set appointment times, so it's more open. So we don't have someone available between like 9 and 10
it's fine.
on Monday.
Yeah, you can.
So it will look at the calendar of that person and say, this person is, there's no availability, so, it's not going to expose it.
So in appointments, you connect your calendar, and so we read from the calendar, but also you can specify extra rules, like, hey, I'll be 9 to 5 every working day, for example. Yeah. So it combines those two together, and if you're open on both, then it shows as an open slot.
Exactly.
So you have full control. You can do whatever. It can be dynamic. It doesn't need to be set statically.
Yeah, and in terms of the communications, you can then integrate that status or that event with jobs. So you could use agents to conduct that kind of pre-tour, post-tour follow-up.
So the only problem with that is these people are not employees. They're student ambassadors.
Got it.
So we will reach out to them whenever somebody requests this to see when they're available to meet with that person.
Yeah.
Right.
So if we can't do the appointment thing, is there something else to keep it like a rolling event, but still have like triggered communications?
Yeah, a couple of things you do is if you're using a form for that, and they're saying, hey, I'm looking for somebody at 2 o'clock on the 30th or what have you, you could have an unpublished event. And it's a little bit of a manual work, but you're already doing some manual intervention to coordinate the scheduling of your ambassador. So the student fills out a form, we confirm that Ty's available to do that tour next, Thursday or whatever, and then you could put that into an event and register the student or whomever for that, and then use events to drive all of the pre and post communication. And again, as a private event, students who go to your event site wouldn't see that as being able to be registered, but you could manage that from the dashboard.
It sounds like this is a, hey, let's just take 5 minutes on the side and kind of walk it through.
Yeah, that's a really...
There's different ways to solve that problem.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to go to the WOVA app. There's some really good questions that have been posted in here as well, and then we'll come back, So I'll go through very quickly in here. Will there be an opportunity to have more than one decision board to be used for different applications? I think we already have that. So this is a feature that we've introduced not too long ago. As we did the AI reader, now you have the opportunity for each one of those decision, well, actually,
No.
No?
the decision
It's not fully
criteria.
separated out, so you can set up multiple, you can set up all of your criteria. It's currently in one board.
So we're talking about the different stages.
Yes.
Yeah, with the
Okay,
different
okay.
stages, yeah.
So these 5 stages belong to grad admissions, these 5
Yes,
stages or 10 stages belong to undergraduate admissions. So
We're nodding knowingly because we definitely understand that the need for that, and there's like a workaround that is okay, but it leads to the interface not being super intuitive, so that's definitely on our list to get to soon.
I remember we all talked that we want to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the same thing, like we waited for, when you should add more complexity, but we did get that, like multiple teams working, having different processes. And it's a similar, like another application, like what we use for our task tracking, we use an app called Linear. In Linear, you can separate the teams. Every team has its own board to keep track, so it's similar to that. We can do that.
That's right.
Okay. Have you considered letting users scope their own fields? We would love to create table-like cards for financial aid awards by type, by term, by year. I don't know if I understand the question.
Like repeater custom fields, kind of cover it. Yeah.
So repeater custom fields.
and then group that data on the UI.
Common requirement so far. I've heard that multiple times.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It's a hard problem. How we design the system, but I think we never took like a shot, like sit down and like let's think for 3 days on it. But I think a lot of people will benefit. So at some point we'll do that.
Well, yeah, I would love to know the specific case, that the user's thinking of, and we can think about. We always have this discussion internally when these things come up. Should we build a native field? Should we lead people to rely on custom fields? So we iterate on that, and just recently we've decided we're going to add the program repeater, for example. So when those things come up, we love to get that feedback, and the more that we see a certain type of field requested, the more we know it's needed. So
you guys really don't want that. I'm gonna actually push back on that.
Okay.
You don't want it. The reason why you're using Element is because there's a way to do something, and we deliver those fields, and it's standardized, and now out of the box you get that functionality. It's deeply integrated with everything else. If you just want a place to just store data, then maybe just use not use something else, but it's really not, we're trying to solve real problems. So if you have a question and a workflow that you want to come back and say, hey, we want to solve the this financial aid type of workflow or question, we would love to bring that in, think more about how that can be how that can be integrated in the rest of the system, how we can incorporate it in other workflows, how we can now share it with everybody else as that use case, because there might be other people that might have exactly the same workflow. So for us, it's much better to solve it that way than basically giving you this low-level tools and then you doing whatever you need to do in there. And that's been our philosophy from the beginning, is that we're going to give you standardized tools. We're going to give you enough control, or we're going to balance the control that we're giving you to configure things versus out-of-the-box stuff. And that's the benefit of it, because if somebody leaves and you're like, holy shit, I don't know how they configured this thing. Now we have these custom objects. I can't do reporting on them. I can't, they don't connect to anything else. And then the data is not available for agents and so on and so forth. It just doesn't do you any good. We've seen Salesforce implementation go sideways so many times because of that flexibility.
Yeah, we're definitely the most interested if we can build, the native field version of anything, because we can integrate it much better, like you're saying.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to hear more, but yeah, I think generally that's our answer, is that we want to integrate the field if we can.
So I think I'm going to add with this question. I think we're going to. I think we have time for this one. So what upcoming features are on the roadmap that we should be excited about? Are there any major updates or changes users should prepare for over the next 6 to 12 months? So I'll ask you guys this question, and maybe we can go one by one, and we can go through that.
Start with Ty.
Yeah, I think.
Not high level.
Yeah. I don't think there's something that you need to prepare for. I think we're going to, anything that we introduce is going to be totally, compatible. It's not going to mess with your workflow that much. But what we're going to be doing is moving more towards agentic first approach. Maybe that's where you're headed.
I meant probably they meant not prepare in the sense that they do a lot of work for that. It's more like, hey, we probably are building something and they need to get their team ready. That probably a whole department might move.
Yeah. That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
And kind of like we are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So we're building 2 new teams. One I just spoke about today is our non-degree team, which is going to handle non-traditional course discovery and registration. We're also going to be building our alumni team, which is going to specialize on serving your alumni community. So definitely, yeah, that makes sense. Be prepared for those, because that will affect where you can implement Element within your institution. But yeah, expect us to be making things better. We want to hear your feedback. We released a lot of things over the course of the last 2 days that are very exciting, big leaps forward. We're looking for your feedback on, as you try those things, to keep refining them and improving them with real use case information from you.
So one thing that you do say that, but you shouldn't be prepared. But actually, you should be prepared, because I think us having the folks from Durham Tech, and it was Jessica, and folks from Wake Tech as well, and Kathy, and we were looking at Petar's presentation on plugins, and Jessica goes, Ardis, we just literally implemented all of these different things, and now you're telling us that we don't have to do that anymore, and we can kind of change our internal processes, and this can be a lot easier. So we do understand that it's a lot harder to kind of move that ship internally to adopt these new tools. Mm-hmm. So we're going to give you as much notice as we can ahead of time. And maybe that was the spirit of that question of what we're excited about. So we are excited about this ability for us to bring more data and integrate with more systems, right? And those agents actually doing more work. So that is really, really exciting. So that's a great area. We're really excited in the application reader. We're really excited in transcript evaluations. If you're looking at systems that are going to, or AI systems that are going to do that kind of work, I would say please hold off, because we're building those things into Element right now. If you're looking at systems that are going to do things like telephony or call center, like we're building those things into Element with agents, and they're going to be amazing, and you should hold off on building that. If you're looking at, as Ty mentioned, moving into kind of non-course cart, for example, or looking at that type of product, please hold off, because we're building something in there as well. On the alumni side, things like ledgers and campaigns, How do you manage that? How do you manage a ledger for a student? For example, so the student can have a full kind of tuition, approach. So we're bringing a ledger in Element so you can have kind of this financial transaction data in there as well. Those are the directions and the things that we're thinking about that you should kind of come to us and say, hey, if there's other things that you're implementing, other tools, we'll be happy to kind of tell you that, yes, that is in the near horizon, which is like 3 months, near term 6 months, or future term maybe 12 months. Oh,
yeah, but
is it time?
Agents all the time is the real message, and all these specialized agents, whether it's transfer or call routing, right? That will be an agent-based call routing system. It's not going to be a telephone tree from 1985.
All right. That was AMA. Thanks, everyone. Those are really good questions.
Thanks, everybody.